it's easy for us, especially when we're in transition in life, to get lost. And what we really gotta remember is that it's all in us. You know, like the secret to the stars are literally in us. We're all made of the same thing.
What's going on, everybody? You are now tuned into the smartest guys in the room, and it's your boy O.
I'm Jeff, and I'm Big Just.
And we're super excited. We got a very, very special guest. You know, all of our guests are special, but this one,
Friend of the show.
Very big friend of the show, and also a Bronx native. Let's give it up for Walter Cruz, artist and creative collaborator.
Oh yeah. Walter, you've been with us since we were recording in my living room and shit, bro.
That was, yeah.
And we go way back.
Yeah.
Yo, I thought
we
about that today.
School, bro.
That was 20 plus years ago, bro.
Yeah, man.
Facts.
Been around for a while. Thank you so much for making the time, bro, and sharing this moment with us. But,
I'm honored.
We wanted to bring you on because love your work, and I think nothing kind of gets us more excited than hearing a brilliant person talk about their work, and I feel like we use that and live vicariously through you and take that motivation and go do our own creative shit. But yeah, man, I'm so happy that you're here, and I want to kind of give you the space to talk about your background a little bit.
For sure.
And how you got into this, because I actually don't recall if this was your thing back then.
Back in the day? Nah, definitely.
Nah, just definitely straight A, type soon, but I don't know if the art was there though, but
I mean, also, we don't really have art classes.
That's true, bro. That's actually
that's one art class. Yo, facts. Shout out to Bronx.
So you weren't one of those kids in high school or middle school that was just doodling in your book all the time? Nah. So when did
I took art classes, but I was never it was just always in the back of my head. I was just oh, this is cool. But even I would say in middle school, probably 7th grade was the first time I ever went downtown. When I went to Times Square.
Matter of fact, by yourself, I'm assuming
No, with my peoples.
Yeah, but without your parents as well.
No, with them.
With your parents.
Period.
Period.
First time
ever.
Oh, that's wild.
And I immediately was I just started seeing all the buildings, and I was like, oh shit, I want to do this. Who made these things? I want to do that. So from that moment forward until I graduated college, I was I want to be an architect. I was just this is what I want to do. I want to be the person that makes these buildings.
Wait, so first of all, let's take several steps back. Let's take several steps back, because I know we're jumping into it. We got very excited.
Yeah.
First things first. Look, as soon as you walked into the Chop House, the first thing that you saw was this magazine right here.
A fact.
And what did you say? You said, yo, I'm in this magazine. Shout out to the online gallery. Shout out to our guy, Che Morales, who is the founder and co-founder of the OG magazine, which is really all about demystifying art and the art world. And on the cover is Derek Adams, legendary artist. Derek Adams. Walter, tell us a little bit about your connection to Derek. And this magazine, because that's very serendipitous that all of that happened.
That's how you know this was supposed to happen.
For sure. I mean, I guess I never talked about this before, but first, shout out to Sean Leonardo. So he's an amazing artist. And what happened was, back when I was 23, 24, it was a while back, me and one of my good friends, Tommy, we were yo, a lot of people go through, we're trying to figure out what is the thing we're gonna do. And he was yo, I heard about this thing where we can make clothes out of bamboo and all these alternative materials. So we started doing mad research, and we were all right, let's do this shit. Let's fuck cotton. We're gonna make a whole campaign where it could be sustainable. And this was almost 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And we were we're gonna do this thing. So then we were let's do a Kickstarter. So part of that Kickstarter, we were we gotta raise money. I think we were trying to raise almost 40 bands back then. And we were yo, we gotta call everybody. So I was calling people I haven't spoken to since kindergarten, anybody that was willing to give $1, I was hitting up. And at the moment, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just hit up my college and ask them who are like the alums that are in New York. So I met this one person, and he was running a foundation downtown. So we were chopping it up, and he was like, hit me up next week. So we were talking. He's like, yo, you should go to this art thing. And I was like, bet, let's go. Because in my head, I'm still thinking like, I'm trying to massage this thing to get some funding. So I'm gonna go. And then the day of the event, he's like, I can't go anymore. And I was like, I'm gonna still go. Like, even if you can't make it, I'm gonna go anyways. So I end up going to this thing. I meet this artist, Sean, and he's like, I've never met any artist like this before. At the time, it was, I forget who passed away, but it was like a police brutality thing that happened. And he did a piece of art that was like embodying that. And I had never seen performance art before. Wow. So afterwards, when it was done, I waited online for a while. Everybody said hi, bye, whatever. And I was like, yo, like, you don't know me, I don't know you, but could we just grab some coffee sometime? Like, I just want to learn from you. Like, I'm trying to understand what you're doing because I've never seen this before. And he was like, bet, let's link. And then he hit me and was like, actually, matter of fact, just pull up to my crib. And I went, the first time I ever met him outside of that, I went to his house and they dinner with his family.
Wow. What?
And I was like, yo, this is amazing. So then after that, whenever I would just literally be like, whatever you need, I'm just trying to help you. Like, you need me to pick up a box, whatever it is, I got you. So he would be like, hey, I need help with this, I need help with that. So he ended up doing, like, during Art Week in New York, he ended up doing one of the big art fairs. He was like, yo, can you come and help me install my paintings? And I was like, of course, I got you. And then when I got there, he's like, yo, that dude over there, that's the guy who put me in this thing. And it was Derek, and I didn't know him at the time. And he just kept being like, yo, you gotta talk to this guy. And I hate, like, I like it to be organic. I'm not gonna talk to you just because you got some status or whatever. I was like, nah. But the whole day, I was there for like 12 hours, and the whole day we kept seeing each other. And I was like, now it's just awkward. Like, I gotta just talk to you.
Say something.
So I was like, yo, my man, I keep seeing you from across the room. Like, let's chop it up. So we started talking. He's like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I do art. And then on the spot, he was like, let me see it right now. And I was like, oh shit. And I had like maybe like 4 or 5 pictures on my phone. And I was like, And then he was like, no, I fuck with it. Like, here's my number, let's chop it up. And then maybe like 7-8 months passed. And at that point, I was just like, damn, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I was like, oh shit, I met this guy. So I hit him up and I was like, yo, I don't know if you remember me. We met like 8 months ago. He's like, of course, like, let's grab coffee, just pull up to the studio. So I pull up to the studio and I'm there and he's like, we go to like some cafe and I don't know what it was, but something just told me to just keep it real with him. And I was like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing and I just want to figure it out and I'll do whatever.
Teach me your ways.
And he just looked at me and he was like, yo, I know a winner when I see one, come back tomorrow.
Fire.
And for a few months, I would just go back every day to his studio and just like, in my head, I felt like I was annoying him because I would just be like, what's that? What's this? How did we do this? Why do you do that? And I would just be there. And then one day he's like, yo, when you come back the next day, you gotta help me. Now you gotta start helping me out. And then it just became like a thing where I just kept helping him out and then it just grew from there. But really, it was just him showing me grace where I literally was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, I got you. And literally, he's had me since that day. He just like held it down.
At that point, though, what did your art look like at that point?
Oh, it was trash.
Okay,
in my opinion.
In your opinion, right? Okay. So how far into the art, like into being an artist, a dedicated artist, were you at that point?
Maybe like 3 years. Okay. I want to say, because really, what happened was, shout out to my mentee Matt Rojas, my twin brother Cleve.
Shout out Cleve.
He had been working at the time for this organization called the Future Project. And he had this role called a dream director, where he was literally directing high school students' dreams at a high school. So part of it was pairing adults with students based on interest. So he was like, yo, I have this kid and like he loves art and like y'all should chop it up. And I was like, all right, cool. We met, he was like super quiet. He was a first year in high school. And I was like, yo, what do you want to do this year? Like, we have 1 year. What do you want to do? And he was like, I really want to have an art show and I want to learn more about art. So literally for an entire school year, I think it was like every Tuesday or Wednesday, we would meet every single week and I would take him to a museum, a gallery, like anything with art, I would just take him to it. And then I was like, all right, now I need to figure out how to do the art shit because I've never had an art show and he wants to do an art show. And I can't tell him something I don't know how to do. So then I was like, I started hitting up everybody I knew. I was like, yo, if you do art, if you do music, whatever, like we need to do this thing. Like we got one night, I had a regular job and I was like, I gotta save up enough bread to do this thing. And then luckily, like my brothers, everybody pitched in and like helped out. And we had one night show that was like somewhere in Midtown, like by Port Authority. We had like 200-300 people pull up. And it was the first time I ever showed my work publicly, like making something to show. And then my homegirl, Akila and Ryan, shout out to them too, they bought the work. And it was for like $200. It wasn't anything crazy. But I was just like, oh shit, like I could make something and people believe in it enough to invest in it.
Yeah.
This is fire.
And I could imagine that like having a couple hundred people show up to something that was like basically for all intents like impromptu.
Yeah, literally.
Like, that should put the battery in your back. Cause like imagine if I had like the runway and like I'd start doing this, like I could imagine like you were up here after that.
Of course. I was like, why am I spending 80, 90 hours a week at this job when that's not bringing me the same feeling I got in this one night?
Yeah.
So I had to figure out like how do I replicate that vibe without having to be breaking my back at this job for hours every day.
So I would love to just kind of get into your headspace real quick, right? So the reason that you started to go into art, was it something that was more for yourself, or was it because, and I'll tell you from an outsider looking in, right? And looking in the sense that like I've worked with a lot of creatives. I love working with creative people. Like if that could be everything that I do 24/7, then I am satisfied, right? But and what I've picked up over the years is being creative, at least in my mind, is about the emotion that you can evoke in people. You know, whether it is, and like a big reason for us even doing this show, and we've spoken about it many times, is that this has always been a creative outlet, a different creative outlet for us, right? And the whole idea was to make people feel something, whether it's like they think it's funny or they think it's informative or they think whatever, or they hate it, they feel something. So you're able to put something out into the world. When you started to do this, was it that you were just like, nah, I'm just doing this for myself. I don't really care about anybody else, because it took you a while to show your work publicly.
Yeah, no, naturally, because so the year before that, all that happened, again, my brother Cleve and I, so going back a little bit, when I was like, I want to be an architect, blah, 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 that was like from 11 years old, 12 years old to like 21, 22. I was like, literally that's the only thing I thought about was, I'm gonna be the nigga designing shit. Like, I wanna be that guy. And then when I was in college and I was about to graduate, I was like, that's actually not what I wanna do. I actually, years ago, convinced myself, because at that point, everybody around me believed that. So it became pressure around like, oh, you're gonna build my house, you're gonna, And I actually wasn't passionate about it anymore.
It's like a good job.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh, this is like,
with that.
right, like this is consistent. This is, oh my God, I already told 7 generations of people that you're building everybody's house in DR and you're doing all this shit. So I didn't realize at the time, but it became pressure more than passion, where it was just like, I have to do this now. Like I said it, so I have to follow through now on this thing.
And that was your degree, like that's what,
that's what my first degree was in, was architecture.
Oh
I completed the whole thing. And
so
I was like,
you studied architecture. So what made you change your mind?
It was right before, like literally 2 weeks before I graduated. I just sat down one day and I was like, just keep it real with yourself, Walt. Like, is this what you want to do? Like, you about to walk across that stage and get that piece of paper, but you have another long road ahead of you. Is this really what you want to do right now? And I was like, nah, that's not what I want to do. And my mom gave me like that white girl smirk, like,
it's like, ¿tú estás seguro?
Yeah, sure about that. Oh shit, this just got real. Yeah. But yeah, so then what ended up happening was my twin and I, Cleve, we were just like, he hit me up one day and was like, yo, these people came to my school and like, they're talking about you could get this fellowship. And I didn't hear any word really. I was like, cool, it's not architecture, we out. And then he's like, yeah, but it's in China. And I was like, oh, okay, fuck it, we out. We out.
We out.
So we both applied and we got the job. And like maybe 2 months after we graduated college, we literally moved to China.
What?
And we was out there.
I remember this.
And it was on a whim. Like, we got there, and I thought it was funny until I got there and I didn't speak Chinese. And I was playing charades to eat and, like, do basic things. But while I was there, I ended up going to Beijing. And in Beijing, there's this neighborhood called the 798 district, which is like, it's like Chelsea on crack. It's like, imagine it, like, I don't know how to do, it's just a big ass neighborhood full of art. Like, and it's everywhere. It's not just inside the gallery. It's like, there's big ass sculptures on the sidewalk. Like, people are doing things everywhere. And I just walked through it and I was like, this is it. This is the energy I want to be a part of, this thing. So as soon as I came back to New York, I was like, I gotta figure it out. Like, I need to figure out how to, like, be part of that energy of creating things in the world. I don't wanna passively be living. Like, I need to figure out, like, people have been living on the other side of the world, figure it out. I'm in New York City. There's gotta be a way to figure it out.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And I think, like, based on a lot of what you're saying, like, there's been a lot of moments where you've been faced with, like, a kind of like either this or that, right? And, like, I guess I want to try to hone in on which one was, like, the most formative one, like the most important kind of decision that you had to make. Because I think, like, you mentioned college and, like, right when you're finishing up, that to me would have been, like, a pivotal moment, but also, like, deciding to go to China, like, and that opening up this whole other kind of facet for you. Like, what do you think that is?
Bro, you didn't go downtown until you was in 7th grade.
From what I remember, low key, for real.
And,
like, I really
to
don't
go
remember.
to China right after college.
Well, I would say, to answer your question though, I would say, so when we finished middle school, once we left 303, like 8th grade, Cleve and I got presented with this opportunity where they were like, hey, well, it's actually all of middle school on the low. We used to go to Riverdale every Saturday and go to class.
Oh, right, like a college prep type?
Yeah, so almost entirety of 303, we was going to class on Saturdays. Like, I'm just talking straight up math, science, everything. We would get on the bus for 2 hours.
What school?
At Fieldston.
At Fieldston Country Day School.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I
they
grew
had
up
a
in Riverdale,
program.
that's why I know.
So they had a program called FEP.
Okay.
The Fieldston Enrichment Program, which was basically like city kids around the city could go on Saturdays and in the summertime and take classes there. And then at the end of the program, you could take a test to get placed in other schools. So at the end of 8th grade, we took a test and we got placed into this other program called the ABC program. And then from there, they were like, yo, we got this school, a high school in Massachusetts if you want to go to it. And my mom was like, fuck no. Y'all are 13, 14, ain't no way y'all leaving the crib.
This was a boarding school then?
No, it was this one program that was a public school. It was just in a really good neighborhood. Like, everybody paid their taxes, so they had a lot of resources. Yeah. Like, it felt like a private school.
Okay.
So my mom was like, hell no, y'all not leaving. Like, there's no way. And then we were like, all right, how about we all just go together and visit the school? So we got on a bus for like 5-6 hours and we pulled up and we met everybody. And my mom, even though she was reluctant, she was like, all right, fuck it, y'all can go. Y'all can do your thing. So I think it was that moment in 8th grade where we were like, there's gotta be something else besides the X. Like, there's gotta be a bigger world. I think that just put me on that path of taking risks where I was just like, somehow at 13, I was like, I gotta see more. And from there, I was just like, I gotta keep seeing more. I just wanna see what else is possible beyond whatever's on the block. I just gotta see it for myself. I can't just take somebody's word for it.
That's monumental. And I think, like, also the fact that it wasn't like, once you kind of decided and, like, that it was happening, it wasn't like hammered down. I think what happens in a lot of, like, our culture is that you kind of decided you want to do something, and then somebody, like, if they think that it's, like, not, like, suitable or, like, profitable, course or path for you, they'll try to, like, steer you away and, like.
No, I appreciate that because my mom, she's so chill, and I just remember that day where I was like, look, I want to quit my job that's giving me a paycheck every 2 weeks to do this thing, and she was just like, yo. No, she was just like, just understand if you do that thing, this is gonna be the hardest thing you've done. This is gonna be harder than having a regular job. And I took that as her blessing, and I was like, all right, so I was lit. I went the next day, and I put in my 2 weeks, and I didn't look back. Facts.
So in terms of like, we always ask like, we want to find out like mentors and stuff. You kind of briefly talked earlier, but like in terms of people throughout your life, like who would you say is like the smartest person you know? Heavy on the smartest, right? Like replace that with like who's the most like kind of impactful or like important person to like your successes currently?
So many people, man. There's that song, or there's a lyric in the song by the artist Kanan, where the song is called Dusty Foot Philosophers. Where he calls Dusty Foot Philosophers are like people who like, they never went to traditional schools, whatever, but like they're the smartest people in the room or on the corner or on the block. And that always stuck with me. I was always thinking about like, who is the Dusty Foot Philosopher in my life? And early on, rest in peace, was my first mentor, Julius Ford. And he was like someone, first he was a black man, he was young, but he always figured out how to hold it down for himself and the people around him. Where he was like, when I met him, maybe his late 20s, he already had a couple kids, but he was still like, I'm gonna figure out how to take care of my family. I'm gonna still figure out how to like show up for the community. I'm gonna always hold space for everybody. And then teach you how to advocate for yourself. That's what I learned from him, was like, how do you have a voice and speak up for yourself? Because at the time I was like, I don't know, I'm in this new place. I've never been here before. Before this, I was just in the Bronx. And he was like, that's cute, but like, you gotta figure out how to talk for yourself. He drilled that, like, yo, when you feel something, say something. When you want to do something, speak up, negotiate, just like taught me a lot of life skills. And that stuck with me since. I just think it's throughout life, it's just been a series of people who just like, whether I remember them in the moment or not, just always keeping it real with me. Just like, yo, do this, do that. Or like, maybe it won't even be direct. It was just a conversation we had. And afterwards, I'm like, fuck.
I love getting to answer that question because I similarly see that as myself. Like I feel like I'm a mosaic of like a lot of different people that like injected certain things and like inspire me in certain ways. It's good to hear like a similar perspective. Like it's not just this one side of the moment, but just a little like various things along the way. But yeah, man, I think more kind of to today. Last month, or almost 2 months ago now, you had an exhibit out in the Swivel Gallery, right?
Yeah, in Brooklyn.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Interesting times.
I have a lot of questions, but I got.
No. I mean, I think it was interesting in the sense of it was a creative challenge to like, I guess as an artist, for a lot of your career, you're doing group shows where you're doing stuff with other people. And it's different when it's a solo show in the sense of now it's on you. You can't hide behind the other 12 people in the show. Yeah. Like you gotta come correct with your shit. Which I also find exciting because I took it as an opportunity of like, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure y'all agree, but I love music. So I thought of it more of like, how can this be an album that I put out of like, how can every piece I put in this show have a story and it be a track versus me like, oh, I gotta make 15 pieces and they gotta look nice. But I was like,
these all talk to each other.
Yeah, like they're all in conversation. There's a theme. There's like, which it was a theme. The show was called The Secret to the Stars Are Buried in Our Blood. And that was me thinking about just like, one, meditating. I don't meditate as much now, but at the peak of it, when I was thinking about the show, was like, it's easy for us, especially when we're in transition in life, to get lost. And what we really gotta remember is that it's all in us, Like the secret to the stars are literally in us. We're all made of the same thing.
This is literally what he said. This is 5 minutes into us being here, and I made one comment, and Walter was like, just ask your ancestors.
I'm telling you.
Just ask your ancestors.
Just sit by the water. Make an altar at the crib. Like, it really does make a difference. I think it's helped me keep my sanity of like myself and my girlfriend Victoria talking about that the other day of like, when you can get to the point of you see that other people are going through the same thing, it helps you relax. Yeah. You're not doing it by yourself.
Alone.
Yeah, So I think that was where that idea for the show was coming from, was like, I'm not the only one going through it. So if I can make an opportunity to have those conversations with people through my art, I would love that. And that's what happened, which I appreciate about the show, is what happened was being able to talk to people and being like, whenever they're like, oh, where did this piece come from? And we start having the conversation, and it's like, it's not even about the art no more. Now we having like a whole different conversation.
But that was like the
jumping point. Yeah, exactly.
Are there moments where people are seeing your art for the first time and they're interpreting it in a completely different way from how you should? So how do you react to that? Like,
I love it. I'm not gonna tell you. A lot of the times I'm like, cool, that's what's up. So it's art. It's not. I'm not supposed to explain it to you. You get whatever you need to get out of it. I actually think that kills it when someone is like, well, actually.
Yo, what I was trying to do here.
Yeah, it's like, why are you mad defensive? Just let it be. Just let it be.
That's a good thing, because like a lot of times you have like a North Star and kind of something in mind, but like the perception is like, it's really all in. So like you can't really control what that other person's gonna say. But I still think it's interesting to hear you, like, your point of view on this, because personally, like, I love the way that you use like a lot of different like textures and stuff, and specifically like the colors that you use are crazy. Son. Like this, like, it's like very poignant stuff. And I wanted to ask more about what made you decide to take those different textures and put them all together, and also like the rope. I want you to talk about the rope, because that's like some shit I've never seen before. Like,
man,
we're gonna put these up full screen, by the way. So are we talking about them?
No, I was having this conversation a couple weeks ago at this other thing, but a lot of it came from, so at that same time when I was trying to figure out, I want to be an artist, like, what is that gonna look? Which is another conversation we was having recently around like this idea of taking on different jobs, like bullshit jobs, whatever, just figure it out. And at the time, I had gotten this job to be a brand manager at an art store downtown, where I was working at the art store, but my job was to like specifically represent this brand of paint. Okay. So, and it was this paint from like Australia, and back then was Skype. So I would get on Skype with the owner of the brand, and he would literally hold his computer up and walk through the factory and showing me all the paint, like how they do it, so that when people came to the store, I could be like, oh, this is like blah, blah, blah. But at the time, I didn't think about, we gotta become masters of our tools, right? So I used to just paint, but I never thought about like, where does paint come from? What is paint? Why do we use brushes? And he was not even realizing that he was putting me onto all that. Where he was like, oh yeah, paint is a plastic. This is how we make paint. This is what you can put in paint. And I was just storing all that in my head. Because after that point, I did completely different type of art. And then a few years ago, I was just like, man, I have all this shit stored in my head that I never used. And then the pandemic hit. So I was like, now I got time to like think about that. Yeah, so I just started like pouring it out. All this shit I hadn't thought about for like 7 years was just like coming out, where I was just like, wow, I could mix the paint. I could do this thing with the paint and just like playing with it. And it goes back to meditation, where one day during the pandemic, I was meditating and the word knots just kept popping in my head. And I was like, what the fuck, knots? I never think about it. But again, I'm like, yo, the universe is talking.
Just go with it.
I gotta go with it. So I started researching knots, and just visually, I'm just looking at them and I'm like, this is interesting. And at the time, shout out to my homie Nate Lewis, he had a bunch of just blank paper, and I was like, all right, I'll take the paper. And then I went to the art store, and at that time, everybody was an artist, so there was nothing at the art store but ink. There was literally no paint, nothing. I was like, all right, everybody got a hobby now, right? You making bread, you doing paintings, like. So I was like, all they had was ink.
Making bread, you painting.
A lot of sourdough during painting.
A lot of sourdough starters, bro.
Shout out to sourdough.
Walter's like, I made a few.
I got pictures to prove it.
I love that.
So all they had was ink at the store. So I had paper and I had ink.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's figure out how to do this. So I just started painting like big, like 6-7 foot wide paintings of knots. And then once I painted it, I was like, I should probably know what this thing is. So I started researching it, and I was like, oh shit, there's like a long history here of like, these knots go back. This is like thousands and thousands of years. And then thinking about black and brown bodies, where I was like, what we get taught is people got lynched, people got roped up, all the ways that it got use as a weapon. And I was like, how do I help balance that out and start having those conversations around like, actually way before that, people were using this to help each other out, you know? And then even thinking about during those times, right? And I started doing research where I was like, yo, Harriet Tubman lived during this time, and then this knot got invented during the time she was alive, and then she was on boats, so she probably learned how to tie this knot to help her free people. So then it was like, oh shit, now we could start like making connections across this material of like in real time, we could see where it was helping people out. So I started putting it in the paintings as like, I want to have that conversation because usually the first reaction is, oh shit, bro. And it's tied around the thing. So it's like, oh my God, oh, you a freak, you into bondage. Or like, slavery. And I'm like, nah, I hear you. But let's have the other conversation. But I'm gonna use that to help kick that door down so we can have those other conversations.
Yeah, it's like this first get a rise, and then it's like, nah,
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
I love that. I think like I didn't get that from
you'd be surprised, bro.
But
like,
see, that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't say nothing. I just be like.
So even just when you asked him that question, I was like, oh, he's gonna have to say, because it's art is your interpretation,
which is great.
That right there, I'm beyond like stupefied right now because
the mind map behind exactly is like very impressive, and that's kind of like. I think that's kind of like what we geek out about is like the way that people think and like I think with creatives, it's so much easier to get inside their head than it is to like just a random person who does something. Like you can kind of see like the groundwork for certain things and the inspiration behind certain things, whereas people who are not as like illustrative, let's say, not with just their work but with their words, like you can't really crack that nut real quick, you know? So like, I think that's always like, it's always gonna be a point of conversation we're gonna get really excited about for sure.
I mean, my thing is like, the way my brain works is context. Like, and it'd be pushing, I'd be thinking like, so while niggas was inventing mango in DR, what was somebody eating in Brazil? Like, what was, you know what I'm saying?
This is what I'm saying, like these are all hot thoughts. Like
ideas. Dead ass. But I'd be sober as hell, just be like,
I feel that.
Like what? Like I need, because to me it's like everything's happening at the same time. So I think what ends up happening, especially in the U.S., we get taught in freeze frames of like, in the U.S. this is what was happening, but it's like, all right, cool. So while this shit was happening in fucking Florida, in Senegal this was happening, in fucking, you know what I'm saying? But like that's the shit that interests me is like, how can I learn that stuff and then synthesize. How can I become like the Spark Notes? So it's like, all right, you don't got to do all this shit I just did, but we could just jump into that conversation. And that's what I try to do through the art is like, just enough that you'd be like, what the fuck is that? And then we could be having that conversation, you know?
Break the ice a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So you obviously are like a multi-talented fellow artist, right? You have many, many skills, right? What would you think, or what would you say to someone is like the most important skill to have? Right, whether it's fundamentally or whether it's like a mental skill or whatever. Like, what would you say is the most important skill to have?
Just don't stop learning. Honestly, I'm always and be open to learning and be open to not knowing everything and be open to not being the smartest guy in the room and wanting to not be the smartest guy in the room, because that's how you know
you lost. Yeah, that's how you know you lost. Like immediately, like
you want people around you you can learn from, you know, that or challenge you, you know.
That's what this seat is for.
Exactly.
And that's like the shit that brings me joy is being in a spot where it's like, oh shit, all right, he knows something I don't know, she knows something I don't know, and we could like have a conversation and figure that out and create a new thing together, you know? That brings me, and I think being able to pivot, you know, I do live in a way where I love making art and paintings, but it's not the only thing I do. I don't want everything to
fall into that.
Yeah, where it's like, if that doesn't work right now, then I'm fucked, you know? And then we also have multi-passions, right? I like doing design, I like doing a bunch of other things. I like making clothes. Like this thing I'm wearing, I made this. I like doing different things that's like, it covers the base. I'm not, like when I think of an idea, it's not, I need to paint it. It's, what is the best way to get that idea out? Might be clothes. Yeah. It might be a painting. It might be a video. It might be a photograph.
That's excellent.
That's more of how I move versus like,
And
everybody knows me as this thing, so I gotta do this thing.
your projects kind of like mirror that too. Like I remember you had that like when you used to make the clothes with the messages in the back.
Facts.
Facts. And you had all these like affirmations and stuff. And I remember like this was a few years ago, not maybe like not the last one, but the last one or something. But I thought that was like really cool because like again, you were taking like this whole, let's call it a campaign, if you will, right? And like communicating it through a whole different
No, and that was literally at the time I was like, all right, I'm feeling some type of way in terms of what's happening in the US of like everybody, all these people getting killed by the police, blah, blah. And then I was like, I also am in public spaces a lot. Whether like voluntarily, if I'm doing shit with community or I'm riding the train or whatever it is, I'm in a public space. So I was like, how do I create that conversation? And in New York specifically where people don't like to talk to each other all the time. I was like, so what's the way to do that, right? So if I put it on the back of something, then it lowers the barrier because sometimes people get awkward. They might see a shirt in the front, like in their head they'll say that's fire, but they won't say anything. But if it's on the back of the shirt, they might even take a picture. And then tap you and be like, oh hey, I like your shirt, and they'll just keep walking. So I was like, that's an advantage. I'm gonna use that to my advantage. And it turned into a whole thing where it would be like I just literally took every jacket I owned at the time and painted on all of them, just things that I heard, things that I read, things that people told me. And then it turned into like hour-long conversation on the train, people giving me hugs when I'm walking down the street, people from across the street like, yo, I needed that today, like I appreciate that. It just turned into like it almost became like a public performance without me. And it got to a point where I didn't have any jackets, I didn't have words, so I would forget. And I would be walking on the street, and then somebody starts talking to me, yo, back. I'm like, oh, my bad. That's right. My bad, G. I forgot. But it was just a way to like affirm positivity, because I'm always intentional about being in spaces with Black and brown people. So I was like, how do I create that thing, like become almost like a walking billboard people could feed off of that energy of like, maybe you needed to hear that today. I needed to hear that today. That's why I wore it. But maybe you needed it too.
How do you center and balance yourself? Because I mean, being multidisciplinary in that sense, and like, it's very clear that you grab inspiration from everywhere and everything around you. Do you look for moments where you just like, I need to quiet down?
Yeah.
And how do you get there?
Music. Everyday music.
What kind of music do you use to get into certain types of moods, right? Because I don't know for myself, like there's like I will listen to like city pop, just to like to get the blood rushing. But then there's like other types of shit. Like I will listen to like cinema scores to like get into a certain mood. So like, what do you like? What's your kind of thing?
There's two categories. There's all types of good music, and then juicy. Facts. That's a fact. Like once juicy comes on, I'm like, it's lit. It's lit. Don't tell me nothing. It's lit. I'm getting a Grammy, Oscar, whatever it is. And then just generally good music. I've had this thing for years now, where almost every day I have to find a new song that I really fuck with. And I make playlists every month for years. I just make a playlist every month, whatever I'm listening to that month. So either I listen to it moving forward, or if I want to go back, if I'm ever like if I'm ever like in a funk or something, I'm like, oh, what was I listening to in July 2021? And I'm like, oh shit, all right, lit. I get back into that zone, you know?
Yeah, I relate to that. There's certain songs I'm like, oh.
It just takes you back.
Nah, man, I was on the bus.
And 90s salsa too. Yeah. Oh, facts.
That's a very specific kind of mood. That'll get you hyped up.
Yeah, because like, oh, when you was a little kid and they was making you dance at the party, like, that just takes you back. It's just good energy. You know? Just good energy.
You kind of touched on it a little bit in terms of like advice. We generally also ask like, just like, we call it brain food, right? Like people usually want to get started on something. It doesn't always have to be a creative endeavor.
Yeah, of course.
Like, right? Like you kind of find yourself at zero when it comes to something that you're into. Like, what's your best advice to that person who like is just wants to start? Like, no matter what it is, like what is it? Is it would you kind of harken back to the same kind of?
I would just say fuck up. Just like get it out the way. Just like get it, the next one will be better. So just like don't. And I'm a product of a lot of times where I get caught up in perfectionism. Of like I want it to be this. Like sometimes I'll be like I've had shirt ideas for years now where I'm like, no, but it needs to be this thread count and I need this thing to get screen printed this way versus when I should have just been like, I'm gonna put the thing out and then we move from there. So don't get crippled by perfectionism, I would say. Just like put it out. And my homie Chantel from back in the day, she used to be like, yo, just keep making dope shit till somebody notices. Just make the thing. Just make the thing, Because then what ends up happening is, per se, nobody hears about you for years. Now you have a whole cachet of like, oh, which one do you want to see? It's not like, oh, I gotta get ready now. It's like, I've been waiting for this. I've been ready. Yeah, just keep making, Just keep making the thing. Just keep making the thing. So I think it's that, just be relentless, just like.
Be relentless.
One thing I definitely, at my core, live by is everybody gets their turn. You don't gotta hate, you don't gotta do none of that.
There's room for everybody.
Be happy. There's more than enough room for everybody. And everybody gets their turn. You just gotta be ready for your turn.
Yep.
Don't worry about somebody else's turn. Just keep doing your thing. And be happy for people. Gratitude takes you really far.
Yeah, it brings back more, honestly. Like, you show love. It don't cost you nothing.
It really doesn't. And be genuine about the happiness.
Yeah.
Don't just, oh, what's good? And then you leave and you're like, oh, fuck that nigga. But like, for real, be like, yo, that's fire.
Yeah.
That really is a learning opportunity of like, wow, I don't know. You did it a way I didn't know how to do it. So how do I grow from that?
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, fuck, you did it and I didn't do it yet.
Yeah. What can I learn?
Yeah, so just like really genuinely be happy for people and your turn is coming.
Yeah, word.
Your turn is coming. So.
Is sustainability still something that's important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely practice it in my artwork for sure. Like a lot of the shit that I, like physical objects I put in my work is shit that I've been collecting for years in the Bronx, just walking around.
And so that was actually gonna be another question that I had. How much has your upbringing from the Bronx inspired your art or the things that you've done?
Yeah, man. I would say a way I approach it is, and this is respectfully, what happens sometimes is that people get caught up in the moniker of the Bronx, right? And they use that as like the crutch of like, if I lead with that thing, then it covers a lot of the bases. And for a long time since I was young, I would always think about, because it would happen sometimes, where I would read about somebody, and then I'm reading about them, I'm like, oh shit, you from the Bronx? And I love that feeling of like, I want to just make fire shit. And then when you find out I'm from the Bronx, now it's lit, because then it's like, it's like, wow, somebody from where I'm at did that thing.
It's like you're doing a very particular club.
Exactly.
It's like, and you're from the Bronx?
Exactly. Right, and you're from the Bronx.
I love that.
And I understand people lead with that, but I've always been a fan of like, how do you set the possibility versus using where you're from as the thing? I'm like, it's gonna be fire regardless. And that's the cherry on top, is that now I get to say, and I'm from the X.
Do you feel that way culturally as well?
To be honest, I feel like I've experienced so many different things that is an amalgamation of like, I can get down with Dominican, all this shit, and it's all of it in between, where it's like, I don't feel tied down to one thing in particular, which I fuck with, because then it's like, in my head, I just be remixing shit all the time. Where I'm like, wow, this thing that's Dominican as hell would be fire with like this thing that's not even close to Dominican. So I think it creates this really dope space of like, how do you bring different things together versus being stuck in these boxes where I'm like, just literally in my head, I'm constantly remixing things. But trying to figure out like, how do I throw, like in my paintings, most of them I always put the word Ja in it, right?
Like, why?
Yeah, and a lot of people see it and they're like, why? And I'm like, if you know, you know. Right? If you know what job means, like that shit, you get it. It was for you. If you understood when it said job, and I love doing stuff like that, where it's like, it harks to like the things that I came from. I don't have to be so overt about it. Because not everybody's gonna get it, and I want that. My shit is not for everybody, and I don't want it to be for everybody.
The first music video that I ever directed or attempted to direct, you starred in it. Remember that I hit you up and like I made you get arrested by like a fake cop? Do you remember this?
I hope he has a video of this somewhere. We need to see that footage.
I need to see this footage.
It was for a good friend of ours, Tommy Nibs, rest in peace. But it was like a really it was a song about like injustice and that kind of stuff.
It was Uptown?
Yeah.
I think I remember this.
Yeah, dude, man, had like a fucking like a
I think I remember
little
this. I think I remember this. Wow, yeah, that was a while ago.
Oh my God, that was a moment. We had to press Walter up against a building real quick.
Yes, all right, now I remember this. Now I remember
He
this.
almost got hurt.
Now I remember this. I remember this.
Oh my God, son. That's how far, like, that's how long we've known each other, but also how far, like, we've come, because that was like, I was working with like a fucking, you know those Best Buy cameras that you flip to the side and shit? Like, DSLR, like, bro.
And to me, that my personality still stands with that. If you have the passion to do shit like that, I'll still pull up to tomorrow. If you're like, yo, I only got a phone and we gotta make a video. If I feel like you actually being passionate about the thing, it's lit.
I remember you were game.
Yeah, I'm always with that. I'm always down for that. If someone is being like genuine about like, this is the thing I'm trying to do, I'm not worried about the budget. I'm not worried about like, I will do it with you. Because everybody's been there.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody's been there. So who am I to be like, oh, I can't do this?
Like I have a certain appreciation for like certain things. I like to call it the B-sides whack shit.
Like it's so bad it's good.
Nah, not even that. But like the idea and the concept and all that was fucking actually extra beats. But like we just didn't have what it took to write the execution
right.
in your mind's eye, right? Like it doesn't take away from anything, but it like just gives it more of that like, yo,
I see what you're trying to do.
You put your foot in this fucking 35mm like program shot.
You really went in.
Yeah, it's like, yo, like there's nothing better than that, because like when you see something like that, you're like, bro, I know like if this person had $1,000 more, bro, like they would have really like went extra hand.
And you could have been a dickhead and dimmed that light.
Yep.
And now that person's like, versus like, whoa, I got one off.
Yep.
Now I could keep building off of that. You know, and I think that's what happened. I personally, that's something I never want to be a part of. I'd rather be a part of like, again, if anybody hits me up, whether I know you or I don't know you, if I really feel that you being real about the thing, I'm pulling up.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up.
Just going back to like the importance of support, like, and I think you said it perfectly, not dimming somebody's light, and being conscious of that, you know, like,
That's a big one.
That's a thing, like, you know, everybody sucked at what they did, like at the very
Nobody
beginning.
starts off
you know?
on top. Right.
I mean, it's tough when you like 40 years old and you still trying to rap and like.
But you'd be surprised though.
Yeah, this is true.
Shout out to Griselda.
Maybe you need to turn 40.
Maybe. But like, I mean, it's so important to make sure that you're supporting another person. Like, it's just supporting people around you, no matter what. I mean, it is a hard thing to do if you're like, this shit is questionable.
No, OD. I mean, you gotta take it right. You gotta know when to say yes or no. But
you could be honest, but you don't have to be mean. You know?
Right.
And in a humbling way, I still do it. You know what I'm saying? Like I still, quote unquote, try to reach up. Where I'm like, I actually don't know this person, but I'm gonna still shoot my shot. I'm like, yo, I respect that you do this art thing or you do whatever video, whatever. Like if you with it, can we chop it up or can I still do that now. So for me to, in the other direction, be like, no, who the fuck am I?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Who the fuck am I?
Yeah, I think that's a great mentality to have, because it doesn't close you off to any like potential, like there's shit that people will come to you with that you probably never even knew to work on.
Facts.
And like, you probably be super interested in this whole new endeavor. That Otherwise it would have been like,
I would have never like.
Exactly.
And I'm sure like in your career so far, you've encountered number of people, especially artists, you know, we were talking about this before, like if you're an outsider from the art world, you look in and you're like, this is a little like, what's the word? I hate when the words escape
Like
me.
prestigious?
Not prestigious, but yeah, sure.
Or like high end, or like polished, like
it's like you look in and you're like, I don't know if I can really like
rock with that.
have a conversation with somebody because I know that their appreciation for it is at another level, but I still appreciate it also.
Facts.
It's like, my point is that like, have you encountered artists within your time of doing this that you're just like, yo, you were just, you're not that you're whack as an artist, but you were whack as a person.
Of course, bro. That's
Okay.
any industry.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And that thing, I mean, there's levels to all that, right? Where I feel like at this point I've been around enough artists where it's gone from like being in the P's to like being in a penthouse with creative people, right? Where those environments will make a difference. To your point, it's about the people that are there, right? Where I was like, and there's been situations where I'd much rather be with you on Alexander than be on Park Ave with some other bozo that thinks that he knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? So it goes back to heart of like, either you genuinely are trying to figure it out, or you in this because you like the game, or like you like the rah-rah of it, which separates people, right? Where people are gonna be successful regardless of the intention. But it makes a difference when, are you in it because you want people to talk about your shit 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now? Are you in it because you're trying to be hot right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you also in it for yourself? A lot of people are in it,
You can start like almost immediately. You can tell, especially if you've been in these spaces long enough. You're like, oh,
It's the questions people ask.
yeah.
When I meet people, I never ask them, what do you do?
Yeah.
Who are you with?
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, are you having a good day? How's your heart?
Yeah. Like,
You thirsty? You drank water today?
What kind of stuff you listen to, man?
You feel me? Like, what brings you joy?
You ever seen this movie?
You feel me?
I'm very much like that too.
Because when niggas start with the other shit, I'm like, oh, I already know what time it is.
It's so, you're bringing up such a great point, because I think people get lost in the transactional nature of building a relationship with people. Like, go back to the core of it all, right? Like I feel like I've had this conversation numerous times, and like I know specifically in our industry, like working in marketing and stuff like that, like it's almost like it's immediate. It's an immediate thing to ask, like the first, so what do you do?
Right.
You know, like where are you from? What like how's your job? You know what I'm saying? Like versus asking them. Yeah, like exactly.
You're socialized, like it's not a bad thing. It's just what we get taught. Like
and especially in these circles, like I think more. But I think outside of like a corporate setting, for example, to be asked that, to me is even more. I don't know if you feel this way too, but like in a corporate setting, I'm okay with like,
you know it's coming.
But like if we're at a bar, son, and you talk about like, yo, so what's your deal? Like I'm like, son,
can we just take a shot? Like, what's going on?
So what's your deal? Because basically they might as well ask like, yo, what can I extract from you?
Facts.
Like what can I mine from you right now, son, that like will benefit me? And I like what's most fascinating about that specific feeling. There's is it Schadenfreude? Like you kind of get a joy after when people realize that like after they dub you that you might actually be very beneficial to like whatever it is that they're doing, and you can see like the moonwalk, like yo, you said you did and it's like, oh nah, it's clear for you, son. That's it.
That's why, to me, one of the things I'm very intentional about, especially being in the creative world, is I make time and want to be around people that have nothing to do with art, and not just nothing to do with art, don't give a fuck about art. That I know I could spend a whole day and not one time when we talk about anything, even remotely related to art.
Yeah.
That you literally don't even care enough to ask me. Or you, even better, you don't even know about shit. You just don't even know about it. So you're talking about other things.
I feel like that provides a nice little counterbalance.
And it's humbling too.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds you like, this isn't the whole world.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up around like, when you're around people that are doing the same thing of like, oh, now we're used to like, oh, And then you're around somebody that's like, what is a canvas? What is paint?
Canvas. Yo, I got this rope on this shit.
Yeah,
bro.
like what is going on? Which goes back to, that is what I make art for to begin with. I've always thought about like, as a kid, as a teenager, when I used to walk by galleries, I never felt comfortable being in those spaces.
Yeah, same.
So when I make art now, I purposely add like t-shirts, hairbrushes, all this stuff in it. Cause I'm like, that shit that'll stand out. If you're walking past it, you might not be into art, but you know what a t-shirt is, you know what a brush is, you know what a bullet is, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that'll be enough for you to hopefully step in the space. Cause what ends up happening, ironically, is that we end up making work about people and then they don't get to see the shit. Cause they get put into these white boxes.
These spaces where our people won't ever come to.
The very people that inspired this shit, now they're not looking at it. But you get so caught up in, I'm making racks, or this person is giving me opportunity in X space and blah, blah, blah. When it's like, yeah, but the homie you had the conversation with, the rest of the people that y'all was with, they not over here. So what's the point of it all? Why are you even doing this?
And the fact that you anchor like your work in that, making sure that people like are the people who it's meant for actually get to see it. I think that's such a crucial component.
So this last show I had, the best thing that happened was my homie, shout out to Ibrahim, black architect. He runs a firm in Crown Heights. He's from Crown Heights. He was intentional about opening an architecture firm in Crown Heights. And he hit me up and was like, yo, I have these high school students, this group I work with, and I want to bring them to the gallery. And I was like, of course, say let's bring them. And then we got there and he was like, everybody raise your hand if you've ever been in a gallery before. One person raised their hand. So we had a conversation about the architecture of a gallery first, of like, what is a gallery? Why is it a white box? Why is it? And then we talked about the art. And that to me meant so much more than like someone walking in and being like, I want 4 pieces, or, you know what I'm saying? I was like, we got to touch with kids that were like, yo, I actually have to understand the space I'm in physically before I can understand what's on the wall.
Absolutely.
And that always means way more to me than any fucking sale or whatever write-up happens.
You help people build this foundation, like you kind of understand the building blocks of it all.
Of course.
Like, you kind of have to start somewhere.
Of course.
I love that.
Of course.
And it's intentional because again, you don't want passengers in the space, you want like active drivers and stuff and active participants.
Facts.
Bro, one more question before we wrap.
I got so many. I'm doing my best
I'm
to
here
just
all night, folks.
tame myself right now.
What is it? I can't help myself. What's next for you, son? Like, what are you working on?
Man.
Where can we find you? What are you gonna be doing?
I'm working to
If
what I
you
said.
can disclose,
No.
you know?
All right, some I can't, some I can't. Going back to what I said earlier, I'm getting in a different space of just putting things out more instead of like trying to make it perfect. So there's a couple projects that I want to put out soon. Shout out to my homie Kamau, where I've been working with him. He has a spot down in the South Street Seaport called Black Gotham Experience, where essentially the last 10 years or so, he's been developing walking tours, curriculums, all kinds of things to explain the history of Black people in New York prior to slavery. So I've been working, and now it's beyond that. Now it's all kinds of stuff. So I can't disclose the details, but him and I, and a team of folks, not just him and I, but about 5-6 people, we're working on a dope project that speaks to the history of the neighborhood that existed before Lincoln Center was placed. So it used to be a neighborhood called San Juan Hill. And that neighborhood was predominantly Black and brown people. There were some white people in that neighborhood, but it was predominantly Black and brown people. And it wasn't that long ago. That was in the 50s. Like, it's not that long ago. And they got displaced to build Lincoln Center. And one of the most famous people that lived there was Thelonious Monk, the jazz artist. He's from that neighborhood. So, yeah, I've been working on a project to talk about that story, about what happened. Like, why did it happen? Not why did it happen, but like, what happened?
What happened was.
And just another folks that I love, I've been working with for a long time and I really appreciate. It's called the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, BAJI. So they're the biggest org in the US that helps advocate for African American migrants around the world. So I work a lot with them to do a lot of design work. So like, I mean, literally today, I don't know if y'all been keeping up with the news. It's officially clipped for affirmative action.
Oh yeah, son.
But was it specific to just those two schools?
Yeah, but effectively it's clipped because once that happens, that's it. You can't make the argument no more.
Yeah.
Like, without saying it, like that's it. You can't use that no more.
For student loans too, right?
If you hit the person at the top, that's it. It's like
After
they
that,
killed Harvard. So
I was like, yo, they did it.
but yeah, I like in general. I like working with people who are working to help other people, and I'm grateful that I'm at a point in my life where, unapologetically, I work 100% with Black and brown people to make shit that is creating awareness or just helping those exact communities and populations. So, yeah, shout out to all the folks I work with on a regular basis.
That's excellent stuff that you find ways, again, continue to find ways to like make your work like integral to like the community around you.
And I think it's a learning curve out of, again, going back to socializing where we internalize ignorance, right? In the sense of working with Black and brown people, you can't make money. When it's like, actually, everybody got bread.
That's a fiction.
You know what I'm saying? But you do think that you're like, I gotta go downtown or I gotta like, you know what I'm saying, work at Walt, whatever it is. And it's like, no, I can actually still make a living working with the people who look like me.
That's a fact.
And I'll be all right.
I mean, Master P sold us. He gave us the blueprint. Bro.
Rap snacks.
Rap snacks. Yo, low-key, some of them joints taste good though.
Yeah, bro. Shit.
Some of them is good.
I feel like I have not ventured into a rap snack.
I've tried some of them. They not bad. I'm not gonna hold you.
Bro, I'm gonna tell you this right now. They're a while overpriced, but that's part of the
Oh yeah, it's like $4 a bag. I'm like, bro.
You know why? Because they so overpriced and you get curious. You're like, yo, what kind of barbecue is this?
Nah. I'm like, oh yo, give me the bag of air with 3 Doritos for 69 cents.
Oh my God, man.
So Walter, what about like your work? Like if somebody wanted to look at your work, find your work, purchase your work,
Facts.
how could they find it?
I mean, these days the easiest is just find me on the gram. It's the 2 Oceans, the number 2 Oceans. Man, if you pass the vibe check, you might be able to come by my studio in the Bronx.
Pass the vibe check.
Cause that's my personal space. But yeah, I would say between Instagram and potentially, if you hit my email, you might be able to come by the studio and see my work. Well, y'all are always welcome to my studio.
Hey.
Yeah.
Vibe check.
Which is again, very intentional. When I moved back to New York, I was like, I'm gonna have a studio in the Bronx. I want that to be a possibility.
How long has it been now?
I just moved back from Baltimore in October. Before I moved back, I was like, when I move back, I'm going right back to X. I'm not going to Brooklyn. I'm not going downtown.
That's what's
I'm
up.
going back to the Bronx.
Facing myself in the mirror with that question.
Yeah.
Yo, do I want to get the fuck out the Bronx? No or yes?
I mean, prices are steep. I'm not gonna hold you. It's getting crazy everywhere.
Yeah, it is. But you know, it's like if it's getting crazy everywhere, then I might as well stay here because it's getting crazy here too.
That's what you know.
You know what I mean? That's what I know. It's home.
I guess for now, it was more of me wanting to like close that loop.
Yeah.
Of like, I didn't want to come back to New York and not at least experience that of having a space in the Bronx that people could come to.
Yeah.
100%. It feels like, I don't know, I feel like that stuff is, personally, I guess it's better. Like, I would love to come back to, like, my hood and open up some shit.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know? Nothing better than that.
And you know, Uptown and the X, they get shat on regularly, so.
All the time, man.
Yes.
And we doing cool shit like this.
You
What
feel
is
me?
going on with y'all?
Look at this spot. I walked in, I was like, oh, it's lit. This is a nice spot. Deadass. I was like, this is a nice spot.
When you say that, like it gets shat on, do you mean like, or do you feel like it gets shat on by everybody downtown and from the
Anyone
other boroughs?
outside the borough.
Yeah, outside the boroughs.
Yeah, and it's not, and it is what it is. I think it's just more, not that I feel bad for them, but it's like, just come give it a try. Like,
Yeah.
you saying
A lot of
that
people
before you
just-
test the product.
It's like they don't want to venture past 96th Street.
Yeah,
like,
that's a fact.
There's a whole
Uptown
world
for
up
them
here.
is Midtown.
Yeah.
I went to Whole Foods, alright?
Right.
So that's Uptown.
I hit 125th and I went right back to the train.
Central Park. That's where this is.
Yeah, I went to 110th.
Oh, it's not in 10th Street?
I know where
the
that's at.
cathedral.
I got to the Edmund Park.
Facts.
That's it.
But yeah, I think it's that. I think it's just that ongoing stigma of like, but in reality, there's so much fire creative people uptown. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not unique in any way.
No,
There's so many creative people uptown.
It's great that you actually say that. So like two quick things. One, absolutely. Like that's one of the things that we prided ourselves on, especially when we kind of switched to being more guest based.
Facts.
Was that we wanted to be able to tell those stories.
Facts.
And so my last question, my last question for you is, like, whenever we have guests on the show, the reason that we pick the guests that we have is because they're doing something. They're in progress. We're all work in progress,
Always.
right? And so we find it more interesting to have conversations with people like yourself, because you're on this journey right now.
Facts.
And the fact that we can even just check in this point right now, like
actively in it.
right.
Yeah.
So if you could put out into the air right now, what is the one thing that if we check back in with you in the next 5 years, 5-10 years, you want to be able to say that you've accomplished? Like, yo, I did this.
Facts. It's crazy because I had this exact conversation a few weeks ago. And I would say for me right now, what that looks like is creating a space that can house all of the interests that I have, but it's open to the public in the sense of, like, I like to screen print, I like to design, I like to paint, but what would it look like if there was a warehouse space that housed all of the pieces that would make that a possibility? And I get to use it because I run this space, but also people can just pull up and use it. And I'm not making it in a way of, like, I don't have to make a profit off of it. It's like, I want to just try, I want to experiment, I want to learn how to screen print, whatever it is, and someone can pull up and use that space. To me, 5 years from now, that being a possibility, that would be, like, beyond amazing, beyond amazing.
All of it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That, like, especially those skills, bro. Like, people will line up for that shit.
Yeah, and it's lifelong skill.
Yeah.
Like, learning how to do those kind of things.
It's like teaching how to fish.
Yeah, and honestly, because once I learned how to do graphic design, bro, I was like, wow, someone always needs design work. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Always needs a logo, bro.
Oh, fuck logos, but someone always needs.
Y'all kids are Justin's like, yo, fuck.
Only because the clientele that needs logos, respectfully, they never know what they want.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what they want.
But I think just learning those kind of, like, to your point, lifelong skills, like, it creates a possibility of, like, I don't need to have a job if I have a skill. Then I get to get in the driver's seat and not be a passenger anymore.
That right there is a nugget right there.
It feels like a reimagined incubator. Like, it's like, yo, yeah, we heard you on this tech shit.
Facts.
But, like, here's a space where, like, you can like learn how to become a creative. Like, the creative you never knew you could be type shit.
Facts. Because I think about that, part of what helped me get more into design, like, no joke, was seeing people with shitty ass business cards outside. Like, when people, when you're on the street, they'll be like, and then I look at this shit and there's like 1,000 pictures on it. And I'm like, I can't even read what's on here. There's like 7 fonts.
Yo, you know how many, like, electronic stores they give you out with a laminated card and it's fucking 8 pictures.
Oh, the blue
sky background. It's like 4 on top, 4 on the bottom, and then it's like a window spot on the front.
Brandon saying, yo,
bro.
The Aki spot got wild Photoshop dishes that don't even look like they do when you go to the spot.
It's like, your wings don't look like that, bro.
You know what I'm saying? But even that, I be thinking about, like, yo, what if people got together and made, like, a little design studio uptown where you could, like, have a base price and, like, mom and pop shops could just come to you and just, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would be amazing if someone had a little bodega, a little spot, and they're like, yo, we only got a rack, but we need you to help us do branding. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that would be amazing to create.
And, like, there are people who are looking to, like you, when you first started out, you were looking to, like, get your feet wet and, like, get these opportunities to, like, learn, right? Like, just touch whatever it is. And I think just connecting those people is in and of itself a success, because I feel like one thing we notice so much is that there's so many misconnections between creatives.
Yep.
It's like, yo, if you met this person, y'all would fucking hit it off. I mean, like, whatever. And it's always, at least here, every week when we come, there's always like, man, I wish you, like, knew this person. Or, like, I don't know, I feel like that happens a lot.
I think part of that is learning how to switch to abundance from survival, right? And I was, shout out to my OG, Monica Dennis. She a long time told me, like, if you can figure out the ways to make yourself sustainable, then that actually gives you space to help people. Because then, let's just take it, going back to design. If I've learned a way to make the money that I need, when somebody hits me up and they're like, yo, I only got $200, I don't have to say yes, feel bad about it, and then chase you for 200. I can be like, all right, when you got the money, give it to me. If you got a way, cool, because I already got my shit covered. Versus like, I got to keep taking everything. I got to like, you know what I'm saying? Because you're still moving from scarcity of like,
different position,
I can't say no, because if I say no, then nothing else is going to come. Versus like, yo, be confident in your skill set. And let that abundance flow, and then you can just actually help people out.
I love that you said that.
You know?
That's been the mantra this season for the team here as my witnesses. Operate from abundance,
bro,
always, bro. Like,
it's a game changer.
I thought the mantra of this season was us learning from them because this is honestly everything that you said. You have been dropping jewels this entire conversation, man. You've been inspiring me just in this conversation, and this happens with a lot of our guests also. And I appreciate the conversation, man. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to be here, man. When Jeff hit me up, I was like, it's a no-brainer. I'm here. Yeah, dude. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Don't forget to follow Walter at 2 Oceans. You'll see it here. And follow us at The Smartest Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And subscribe to YouTube. All of that. Yo, it's been real. It's been real.
Yo, from the Chop House, the smartest guys in the room.
Thank you again, my bro. Peace.